Hey there, folks. Welcome to Spectrum Pulse. We talk about music, movies, art, and culture. And yeah, we are now past the mid-year and kind of split between before and after it. I've got a bunch more short album reviews that I'd like to aggregate together in preference to this format if you guys haven't been seeing the shorts, which is likely. They don't always get a ton of traffic unless they go somewhat viral, but enough about all that. Let's get on the pulse. So before we go any further, if you'd like to like and subscribe, I would be extremely grateful for all that. Again, it can be kind of tough to get some of this traction going, especially for aggregate episodes, especially when placed alongside shorts, and who knows how well that'll do. But again, we got 8 projects on the docket. Let's get started with From Falls of Rauros, Key to a Vanishing Future. This has been in my backlog for a while now, ever since seeing this American black metal band live back in 2019 and reviewing a pretty great album from that year. Now 3 years on, it shows them doubling down on that bassy, progressive metal side they were exploring, but now it's more pronounced, with tremolo shredding and solos split apart by death metal roars, their most complex groove passages, even sharper drum work and acoustic texture, and some impressively rich and filthy bass lines that help the transitions flow a lot more effectively. A big improvement there. And the writing is really solid as well. The sort of wordy but effective attack on ossified strictures of religion and a fleeting culture built on abuse, or in the face of worldwide calamity, a deeper empathy and sense of care will need to be salvaged, even if the journey to get there might be bleak indeed. It's definitely their most dense work to date, but might be close to their best. Check this out. From Poets of the Fall, Ghostlight. I know some of y'all are surprised I didn't cover this much earlier when it dropped this year, given how much of a fan I am of this band for a long time, but it's the sort of project that doesn't leave me a lot to say, returning to the creative DNA of Temple of Thought and the gleaming guitar lines and the expanded solos, but also the glistening keys, overused falsetto, arranged strings, programmed elements, and the gloss of their poppier projects in recent years. It is a terrific formula. The quality is here, but it's also one we've heard better before. And if we're going to the content, well, if Clearview was having the path, Ultraviolet was unveiling the impulses beneath it, Ghostlight is the conflagration of them both, easily their most meta album and reflective to date, trying to capture the glorious but fleeting magic of the moment of performance. And yeah, it's still heartfelt enough to get past some of the clumsier or goofier lyrical moments. So yeah, another win for me. Check this out. From Deuce, Crunkstar. Alright, look, I unironically like a lot of crunk, so even if what Deuce brings is more Memphis trap, I'm not against this going for more crunk summer party bangers. Now, retro throwback is about the only justification for slapdash mixing with compressed vocal and percussion leads yanked straight from 2005. Like the messy mixtapes of that era can feel too long, melodically simplistic, and a little one-dimensional, except for a couple trap cuts that are actually pretty well realized. But I'm less sure on Deuce. He's loud, he's versatile, and he's funny, even if there's more Lil Uzi Vert in his ad-libs and melodies than I would prefer. But when content is kind of thin, like in the mid-2000s, you need momentum and killer guest features. Sometimes it's Juicy J and Rico Nasty, sometimes it's trap MCs like Lil Yachty who just cannot match the intensity. But you know, for crunk balancing the past and the present, it's fun, likely better than you would expect. I'd say give it a shot. From Left at London, Transgender Street Legend, Volume 3. And I thought she was going through it hard last time. Look, I can't blame her. Following her breakout last year and finishing off the EP trilogy now, this is Nat finally landing on a sound and consistent production style that actually mostly works. A bluesy, fuzzed out swagger that's more early 2000s indie rock, with live drums and boom bap hip hop percussion bouncing off a lot stronger bass grooves. It's still very rough around the edges, and some of the squeakier tones don't click, especially the autotune, but it fits the barroom stomp of the content, with self-destructive commiseration and punching back with a lot more wry humor, while matching the yearning for family and connection despite it all, questioning whether those flawed parts of her legend will be able to find some salvation too. It does feel a little abortive in its conclusion, but it's the most I've liked one of Nat's projects since probably Volume 1. Damn good stuff, check it out. From Saor, Origins. You know, as much as I love Saor, I was starting to get worried this band's formula was running dry, and not really loving the change-up here kind of leaves me conflicted. It'd be easy to say that the male clean vocals are the problem. They're not great, not quite matching Saor's best sense of grandeur, instead accentuating just how ridiculous some of the backwards-looking writing can really be. But the problem here feels compositional. Shorter pieces, weaker transitions, more diverse between the brighter thrash-adjacent guitars and the strings and the bagpipes, but they're not as connected together to a central melodic motif. What's frustrating is that there's at least one legit fantastic instrumental moment per song, and thematically the pagan roots are directly in opposition to those who would appropriate them to distort history, but it doesn't coalesce as strongly as their past two projects. It's frequently excellent, it's worth hearing, just never quite transcendent. Okay, the self-titled album from Muna. I was late to this queer synth-pop trio back in 2019, so I was curious to see where they're gonna go after jumping off of RCA into the indie scene, and what we got is probably their most colorful, hook-driven, and self-possessed album to date, set amidst jagged 90s pop throwbacks where amidst touches of strings and saxophone, the guitars will spark against some blocky percussion, and it's still a bit more focused on compressed texture than truly striking melodies outside the vocal harmonies. But like with Saves the World, the production's inextensive of the theme. Post-breakup, where they're on a sharper, emotionally balanced path and are riding a lot of decisive momentum, and that can throw new partners. They're emotionally self-aware of their angst and to question what they may have left behind, but are also taking a more joyful lead in their own narrative. I don't know, folks. Think this might be great. Worth checking out. From Lupe Fiasco, Drill Music in Zion. Okay, a few qualifiers. This album isn't explicitly about actual drill music or Zionist philosophy, instead built from Lupe Fiasco's failed challenge to himself to record a project in 24 hours, which later became 72 hours. And what we actually get is a purposefully low-stakes slice of deconstructive jazz rap taking aim at a rapper's agency in hip-hop, commercial art, and the capitalist society that enables and exploits it. And it leads to a few legit terrific songs like Miss Mural, Naomi, and On Phonem. Not new territory for Lupe Fiasco, but refined just enough to showcase some tremendously clever rapping. Shame the abbreviated recording leaves a lot of songs lacking stronger hooks, fully fleshed out ideas, or just feeling a little bit incomplete. Hip-hop's jaded Ronin proving that all he should need is one cut, but he could deliver a little more. So yeah, great little album, just temper some of your expectations. From Luke Combs, Growin' Up. You know, for that album title, you might expect some actual evolution or change, but hell, just look at the title of Luke Combs' last album, you won't be surprised by this. Same brash, bellowing vocals, same bright country rock guitars, with enough neo-traditional pedal steel or saloon piano to call back to the past, but with no good bass lines or grooves. Same reflective lyrics reasserting Luke Combs' commitment to his roots, with a couple love songs, a few jokey songs we've all heard before. I mean, it's fine enough. It's got some great moments. Doing This is an excellent opener. Outrunning Your Memory is a duet with Miranda Lambert that could match anything from her album this year. The final two songs are really good, and being a little bit shorter, it doesn't wear out its welcome, but Luke Combs is clearly content, secure in his working formula, and with his potential and industry clout, I don't know, I just like to see some actual growth. So yeah, glad we got through all that. Again, if you'd like to like and subscribe, it would be extremely great for all of this. Again, I probably said something somewhat contentious throughout the course of this review. Comments, leave them down there below. Happy to hear from you. One thing I will say is that there's a couple albums here that I understand some people have wanted me to go into a little bit more depth, specifically the Lupe Fiasco album. Honestly, there's not that much more I could really expand on it without going just line by line through a lot of the lyrics, and I'm not sure that really gives the album the service it deserves, especially when this form of deconstruction is nothing new coming from Lupe Fiasco. He's just taking a slightly more modern lens to it, and he's pretty great at it. It's a really great album. But beyond that, hey, anything else I might be able to do to improve my presentation, I'm all ears. And if you guys want to get involved in getting projects onto my schedule for these short form reviews or potentially a longer review, or just support the channel or argue with me on my Discord, link to my Patreon is right over there. Don't feel obligated. I understand it's tough times, but options available. Till then, I'm Mark. You're watching On the Pulse on Spectrum Pulse, and I'll see you next time.